Well, hello YouTube, my fellow machinists and metalworkers, and for you Baldor fans, this one's for you. Mad Eddie here, and welcome to the Man-Style Monster Machine Shop. This is chapter 4 in a short series of videos I'm going to do as my contribution to the world of metalworking, and as inspired by several of the folks whose videos I watch and who I've mentioned in chapter 1. So I introduced you in chapter 3 to the concept of the Baldor alien spine. And I started with this machine, my 7308 DP, which was acquired for about $100 on eBay, used. And as you can see, I've refurbished it, and I've used it to refurbish the subsequent Baldors that I purchased. So I'm going to get behind the camera and take you through the rest of the equipment that I've bought since then, and how this alien spine concept has been embellished to accommodate the different models. So again, starting with the 7308 DP, I bought this refurbed and put on a Leviton switch. I stuck with the basic Miller black and blue color scheme as I mentioned in chapter 2. And then, as you saw, the world premiere of the Baldor alien spine concept. Now some of you may ask, why alien spine? Well, my wife and I are big fans of the Alien series of movies, the first badass chick sequence featuring Sigourney Weaver, and I've actually been to the Alien bar in Gruyere, Switzerland, so we are big fans. And as you saw, the inception for this in chapter 3 was because the switch motor housing, either there's a this one came without a switch, and on the larger ones the switch cast piece tends to crack in one place, so I wanted a way of mounting a switch that would do two things. Not only hold the switch in place, but also accommodate the wires that run from the base to the switch, because I didn't like those sticking out. So that concept is what germinated in the development of the alien spine. So after this piece, the next one I bought was this Baldor 412B buffer, and as you can see, it follows the same Miller black and blue color scheme. The switch is mounted a little higher because this one is at 3600 RPM and generates a torrent of wind when it's running because of the wheels. When I first test ran this one without the wheels, it runs very smooth and very quiet, but the wheels generate a torrent of wind. So I mounted the switch a little bit higher, and just to give it a slightly different look, I bought a different switch. Rather than a Leviton, I bought a Hubble, and it's got a plain aluminum finish which works really well with the alien spine on this one. This one also came with the end caps, whereas on this one I put on brass plate, cut it to size, and put them on here. This actually came with the end caps, so I just painted them a burnt copper finish. But let's show you what the spine on this one looks like. Now this is the first one where I tried curving the spine a little bit more around the motor housing to give it a little more of a flow, and you can see it works out really well. Isn't that a beauty? After this one comes my first deviation from the black and blue color scheme, and this is a Baldor 1021W. There's a lot of interesting stories about this one, but I'll give you the short version. When this came, I didn't even know if I'd be able to keep it because it was so damaged. The bells were bent, the motor housing was bent, the rod nuts were sheared off, and the rods were bent, the switch was cracked, and so I got a little bit of money back from the seller, and then I thought I'd give it a try to salvage this. And the short version is, after 4 or 5 days, I finally got everything fitted, and when I did, it actually spun. So there's a guy named James Kilroy who has a video on his 1215W Baldor where he cut off the end, the grinding wheel covers, and so I did the same thing with this one. That was another thing that's unique about this one, is cutting them off. This is the first one where I actually made a custom cart for the grinder. So I made the stand so that I can raise it and lower it, and this is my new workhorse. I bought a GE switch, and I was going to paint it, as you'll see I've done in a subsequent Baldor, but because the original faceplate is that kind of light bluish hospital color. I had just left the switch in the same color and it actually works. So kind of an antique look, and what a workhorse. This thing is just a monster. It really cleans hard and fast and really well, and it doesn't even breathe hard. It just you know, stays cool to the touch when you're working. So I really like this one a lot. Next is my Baldor 1401W, which is my first high horsepower, and it's the most powerful grinder I have. As you can see, I gave this one International Harvester Red color, and took a long time to refurb this one. This one has a slightly different spine, and I'm going to show you that right now, in that I didn't curve it, didn't bend it much. It has one inflection point, and I didn't even you know, fit it around the motor housing. I actually elevated the switch out by making a box. There's a little bit of wire in there. Wasn't really necessary, but I had the plate available, and so I used it, and it moved the box forward a little bit. I did color the switch. It's an Allen Bradley on this one, and as you can see on the screws on the back here, I used yellow heat shrink. It just kind of gave it a nice look. And that's I forgot to mention a couple of things on these two. Whereas on the first one I actually cut the U-channel and then re-welded it. Starting with this one, I didn't cut the U-channel all the way. I just cut the sides and shaped it, and so the spine is actually now smooth and contiguous, and I followed that theme for the rest of them. Okay, now you can see there's several inflection points where I bent the backbone. The aluminum plate is the backbone, and on this one there's only one inflection point. But you can see this works out really well on this one. The 1401Ws have screws on the motor housing which actually attached to the old original cast part plate, and so I took advantage of those because they do provide additional stability. This grinder is a 5 horsepower and it weighs over 400 pounds. So when I needed to lift it, I actually lifted it by the switch mount that I made because it's that heavy duty. And I did that to put it onto the cart. The cart's wider than the base, it's very stable, and allows me to move it around, and this thing is just quiet and powerful. I mean, when this thing's chewing on metal, you get the sense it hasn't been fed in like weeks. So it just grinds away at the metal. And when you turn the power off, it spins for minutes afterwards. So very nice and smooth. Okay, the next one I bought is a 330B, and this one is an inspiration from Joe Piezinski, who told me about these Scotch-Brite wheels, and as you can see I've been using them like crazy, which is why I have some extras back there. I'm going to be putting them on. But I again went with a International Harvester Red and black color scheme, and painted the switch, which is a GE switch. These things are indestructible. They've, you know, the design has been the same since the 1950s. And again, they came with the end caps on the bells, so I just painted them in burnt copper and gave it a nice look. And then again, here is the spine. You can see it's smooth, straight, and I used these little heat shrinks on the nuts that are used to tie down the power cord. So a very nice look. And then last but not least is my Baldor 1216W. Now this one was in really bad shape. It was sitting in a warehouse in Kalamazoo, Michigan, rusting, molding, and it, for some reason, smelled like fish when I got it. I don't quite understand that, but that's just how it was. It was in really bad shape. I showed you a picture of this one in chapter 3. But this took a long time to refurb. You can see I stuck with the basic Miller black and blue color scheme, and these eye shields were in the original, you know, utilitarian Baldor color, and when I stripped them I liked how they looked because they actually match the aluminum look of the Baldor spine, the alien spine. Now here you'll see a deviation from my normal spine pattern. I again shaped it around the bell housing, but I split the backbone from the spine itself to give the switch mount a little more stability. And it gave it a nice look. It allowed me to angle it a little differently, and really worked out well. Again, this one is also on a cart, because this one alone I think is about 270 pounds. Pretty heavy, but it is definitely a workhorse. So there you have it. Baldor grinders with alien spines. And you can see how that concept has been applied to various models and has worked out really well. I'd imagine those switch mounts will last the lifetime of the machine, which was the intention. So that's it for chapter 4. Thanks for watching. For you Baldor fans, I hope you enjoyed. And Baldor, make note, you're free to run with this concept if you like. Thanks everyone. That's it for this chapter of Mad Eddie's Man-Style Monster Machine Shop.